The Chicago Sky have made another acquisition. We're going to talk about that and how they're part of a multi-team deal to get that done. We're also going to talk about the WNBA's investigation into the Las Vegas Aces for two different things. And also, Cath Englebert talks about the WNBA expansion. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
All right, Sky fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central. I'm the host here, Haize. Glad to have you guys in the building. And so, just to go around the WNBA news first, Phoenix Mercury have making a trade, still finalizing trade to send former Chicago Sky player Diamond DeShields to the Dallas Wings, and the Chicago Sky are going to be involved in that. We could talk about that. The deal isn't complete yet. They're expecting it to be as many as 4 teams involved into this deal once it's finalized and everything is good to go. Diamond DeShields is just, she was such a great player for us, and I do miss her. I wish we could get her back, but, shout out to her for going to the Dallas Wings, and we'll see the impact she has there. Now, some of the more interesting things going around the WNBA right now are two different situations going on with the Las Vegas Aces. The one is Dereka Hamby and her allegations against the Las Vegas Aces, saying this: "The unprofessional and ethical way that I've been treated has been traumatizing. To be treated this way by an organization, by women who are mothers, who have claimed to be in these shoes, who preach family, chemistry, and women's empowerment, is disappointing and leaves me sick to my stomach." Also, so the WNBA Players Union is doing a comprehensive investigation, as they call it, into the Las Vegas Aces to see if they have violated the collective bargaining agreement. And this is just the first thing, right? So that came down first, and of course that's going to be investigated. The league has to do something to investigate that when you get that type of accusation against anybody, any team. But then there's also allegations against the Las Vegas Aces. They're being investigated for circumventing the cap situation. So apparently what's going on and what they found here is that the owner with the Las Vegas Aces has negotiated deals with players that have eventually signed for less than was expected. And then they signed these partnership deals with these brands shortly thereafter. And this kind of these determined partnership deals. So apparently there's some investigation and corruption in that way. And that's hugely against the collective bargaining agreement, is that, you can't negotiate with players and then, have side deals come in or have endorsements or partnerships come in after the fact to kind of increase that money that the players get. So that's going to be a huge investigation as well. This isn't anything to take lightly. And I think when you look at that, and if that does end up going that way to where they do find something, you could see heavy sanctions come down against the Las Vegas Aces for circumventing the salary cap. This is huge, right? And then kind of go into detail with this. Okay, so according to the Next, the Aces have been accused of arranging calls with potential signees, either free agents or current players, negotiating extensions, and they offer a specific amount of money from a particular pre-selected company that then would make a call to the players later on. So that is hugely against the league rules, and so this is probably one of the more egregious and just flat out accusations we've seen of the team of trying to circumvent the salary cap in the WNBA, and that could be absolutely huge. And we can see what that penalty is going to be. That's not anything to take lightly. It's really crazy when you think about it, and it all boils down to. But we'll end up seeing what comes of that, if anything, for the Las Vegas Aces, a team that just put together a super team that's expected to be one of the definitely try to repeat as WNBA champion. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, on last episode, we talked about expansion, and we talked about how Portland was pitching Cath Englebert on expansion, and she's since followed some of that up some. So while she had previously said that she wanted to announce locations for a new team by the end of 2022, which of course did not happen, that has since passed. She's now walked back on that timeline. It looks like as soon as 2024. She's even said that as far as expansion, we're about 2 to 4 years out from expansion happening. So she does want to announce at least one of the teams by 2025, and wants to add a team by then. But she also went on to say this: "We are not in a rush." Adding that it's more feasible to bring in a new team for 2024 as players. It is not feasible to bring in a new team for 2024 as players are already in the midst of free agency for the 2023 season, according to the Next. So we'll see what happens with that. It doesn't seem like the expansion is going to be as quick as maybe we had once thought of. They still haven't decided on teams, but WNBA expansion is coming. The question is just when and where the WNBA will be expanding into. Now, we already talked about on the last episode. You can go and check that out on the channel if you want to talk about just how important expansion could be for the WNBA. But those things to definitely look out for. Now, to get to the Chicago Sky specifics of this, I already alluded to it before. In the deal that's sending Diamond DeShields to the Dallas Wings, they're going to get other teams involved, but it's kind of already been said that the Chicago Sky will be involved in the trade, and they will be getting Marina Mabrey in that deal. Now, this is a pretty solid signing for the Chicago Sky. When you look at Marina Mabrey, last season starting 34 of 32 games, it was her most games starting in her WNBA career. Previously in 2020, she started 12 out of 18 games, and then last season she started 8 out of 32 games played. But with that said, this is a player who's averaged last season 13 points per game. She also averaged 13 points per game last season. 3.6 assists last season, 42% shooting from the field, and 35% shooting from three-point range. Now, projecting coming in right as the starting point guard for the Chicago Sky, a really big acquisition there as the Chicago Sky just continue to rebuild and reshape that roster, something that we've already known to come and expected with that. This is after adding Isabel Harrison and things like that they've done already this offseason, Courtney Williams. And this is another solid acquisition and addition to the Chicago Sky, and one that I do think the Chicago Sky, as I said before, kind of alluding to, I did not, the Sky may make the playoffs and things like that, but as things continue to go forward, I more so definitely expect them to make the playoffs at this time. If you add Marina Mabrey to Kalia Copper, you already got Courtney Williams and Isabel Harrison. That is a very solid lineup for this team, and I look at that and say that at that point, while still not the favorites, right, not as deep as what we were before or anything like that, it's still definitely a player that a team you look at that point and you say, hey, things come together for this team. This team can fights, they scrap, they'll play both sides of the ball very well, depending on how Coach James Wade uses that rotation. You still got Dana Evans, other players like that. Rebecca Gardner's coming back. That's still a team that is going to be formidable. It's going to be a tough team. And so we'll continue to see how they come together. But I'm looking more up, and as the Sky make more acquisitions and more deals, I'm looking more and more, it's looking more and more positive for me on just how good the Chicago Sky could possibly be in the 2023 season. It's just up to them to come together, and up to the coach, James Wade, who is also our GM, to really bring that team together, come up with a game plan, and use the roster a little bit better than what I know we were the deepest team in the WNBA last season. But again, there's sometimes where we just could have went a little bit deeper into our rotation than what we did. Now, one of the things that I haven't talked about heavily on this show so far is the WNBA draft, and that's because we're still in the midst of the college women's season. But when you look at it, there are two prospects that I want to bring up in today's episode as we're going to start covering kind of some prospects here and there. The first one up is Charisma Osborne. Now, this is another guard. The addition of Mabrey may change now if they try to go after a guard in the WNBA draft, but she plays for UCLA. She's a 5'9", a point guard. She's averaging 15 points, 5.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists in college on 38% shooting. She's a baller. And you look at the Sky possibly adding her and what she can do in shooting. Now, three-point shooting, not the best, 30% from three-point range, but she's a player that's just a baller. And when you look at trying to build that solid two-way team that I think the Chicago Sky are trying to build, she can definitely be in addition to that now. Adding her, what does that mean for Dana Evans? What does it mean for some of the other guards already on the team? So I'm going to also present a forward prospect. And this is a player that can play guard or forward. This is Ashley Joens. Now, she's 6'1". She's averaging 20 points per game in college. She's playing for Iowa State right now. 9.1 rebounds, only 2 assists, but she's doing so on 42% shooting. This is a player that can come in and immediately replace Ima Mieseman, especially as she's not expected. She's also a solid three-point shooter, taking almost 8 three-pointers per game in women's college basketball and hitting that at a 34% clip. So this is a player that can come in, play forward or guard for you with her ability to just do both things. And I look at this as could be a very solid acquisition for the Chicago Sky in the WNBA draft. Now that's if, especially as they're getting involved in this Marina Mabrey trade to bring her here. Could the Sky's pick possibly be involved in that? We'll continue to see it, but some things that we're trying to watch out for now as we go forward. If you guys have any prospects, either free agency or the WNBA draft that you're interested in, please go ahead and bring them in. Leave the comment down below. But that is it for today's episode of Chicago Sky Central. You can follow us at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. We're going to go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.